Yeah. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon,
Yes, sir.
everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I'm starting, right? I'm
Yeah,
starting.
sure, sir. You can
Okay.
start.
Okay. Fine. 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 Okay. I think video is okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So today's session is on the convolutional neural networks that we will see today. The first will complete the theory, followed by the practical session hands-on. So this is one of the very fundamental and very important aspect of the deep neural networks because now, as I already told in the previous class, that almost 80% of the bits over the net uh, are like coming from the computer vision applications, from the CCTV cameras, starting from the cameras to the the autonomous driving to your in the playgrounds, okay, in your security surveillance apartments, everything. So this online video conferencing, these webinars, everything is included here. So to handle this tremendous amount of video computer vision data, the application from the data, the bits from the computer vision applications, we need to have a strong processing algorithms. And so this family of neural networks is basically designed to handle the image, the graphics. Okay, so we use basically convolutional neural networks because we do convolution operation on the neural networks. Okay, and we know that why we need to do this convolution operation, because we need to filter, we need to process the image pixels. Okay, so for that we need to perform the convolution operation. Okay, fine. So let's move on to various computer vision problems. So as you can see, yeah, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am seeing some hands rising. So any queries? Some rising hands. So that's why.
I didn't. I think so. Not.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. So various computer vision problems you can see from the recognition of an animal, say elephant. It can be either 0 or either 1. Okay, whether it's an elephant or not, that we need to recognize. We need to do object detection, as you can see here. Dr. Govind, who took your morning class, so it's a picture of him. We need to detect the monitor, we need to detect the bottle, his face, who the person is, everything is like object detection. Okay, so this includes the object localization also. Uh, so the multiple objects present in the frame is being detected and identified. So this is the object detection. As you saw, we need to detect the multiple objects present in the frame, and not only that, we need to identify also the objects. Okay, so basically it's object detection and recognition, as you can see in this particular application. Okay, and this is a very important thing, like with the help of the GANs, today's GANs, generative adversarial networks, we can do the styles transfer. We can merge the background, foreground, and the various styles of the the scenarios, the scenes, and then we can combine them, we can append them, and we can mix the scenarios and bring something like this. You can fuse, it's called data fusion. You can fuse it and to make something more artistic. Okay, so these are the things which people are doing now with the help of the GANs, generative adversarial networks. So is a styles transfer with the famous the Starry Night, is a particular famous drawing known as the Starry Night. So you can see this particular image and this particular image, and both have been combined, and we get a mixture and fusioning, uh, fusioning example of this particular thing. So you may think that this can be, you may feel that why can we do this in hand? I mean, can we draw this? Yes, definitely you can draw this. It's looking like very close to a hand drawn picture. Okay, but actually it's not hand drawn, it's animated. Both these pictures have been combined and following this particular style. Okay, now, okay, so previously we saw that until yesterday, we use the multi-layer perceptrons. Okay, the multi-layer perceptrons. Now, the thing is, in multi-layer perceptrons, is kind of a single dimensional set of perceptrons present in a single layer. Now we see there are, so this is an example of a multi-layer perceptron. Now, what is the problem? What is the problem with multi-layer perceptron? Why we need to switch to the convolutional neural networks, where the architecture is something like that? CNN, we need to do 2D vector convolutions, the dot product operations through. Okay, so this is the architecture of the convolutional neural network. I'd like to see and show you. Yeah, so this is the architecture of convolutional. This is the way we do the convolution operations, layer-wise convolution operations, creating intermediate feature maps, and finally we do the classification for logistic regression or softmax classification. Logistic for regression for the binary classification, and logistic and softmax for multi-class classification. Okay, so if you see, then a normal question can arise that we could have achieved this with the help of a multi-layer perceptron itself. Just like this example, why we switch to the CNN, convolutional neural networks. Okay, so the reason is, if you see here, if you can recall the mathematical equations of yesterday's, just try to recall, like it's the input features are like x1, x2, x3 until xn, and suppose, so this is a small picture of an elephant. It consists of only 64 by 64 by 3, that is 12288 number of pixels. Here, this particular small picture consists of 12288. Okay, now the thing is, if we are using very big picture, okay, if you are using very big picture like 1000 cross 1000 cross 3, okay, so this will lead to 3 million pixels. This will lead to 3 million pixels. So now just imagine from 12288 to 3 million, and most of the sensor cameras nowadays are 4K. Okay, 4K resolution. So it is even more than that. So like it is in the range of 4000 by 2000 resolution. So with even 1000 by 1000 by 3, it becoming 3 million. Now imagine if it is by 4000 by 4000 for 4000 by 2000 in case of 4K, and 8000 by 4000 in case of 8K cameras. Just imagine how much total number of pixels that you need to process. So okay, so assuming that we are using a high definition picture image, so if there is a 3 million number of input feature, then if you see how we compute the dimensionality yesterday, that's why I told that yesterday's class was extremely important to understand those dimensionalities. So what is the total number of parameters, the dimensions from the dimension we can get here is that this particular layer will get 1000 perceptrons, and each perceptron, okay, suppose here in this layer I am computing, it is 1000 perceptrons. Okay, 1, 2, 3 until xn, 1000 perceptron. Here it is shown 5, but actually it is say for example, this is 1000 perceptron is present, and from here, like if you compute like 1000, dimension is 1000 by 3 million, because to each perceptron there are 3 million inputs, to remember. Okay, we computed, right? For each perceptron, how you compute the dimension, total number of perceptrons by the total number of inputs. Okay, the total number of perceptrons in this particular layer by the total number of inputs to each perceptron. That's why we compute. So here it coming to be 3 billion. So just imagine the number of parameters needed. It's 3 billion, which is something something noteworthy, and it is really difficult. I should not say impossible, because impossible keyword I always try to avoid, but it's very difficult to compute 3 billion parameters. So like one of the challenges of computer vision problem, that images can be so large and we want a fast and accurate algorithm to work with that. So for example, 1000 by 1000 image will represent 3 million feature or input to the fully connected neural network. If the following hidden layer contains 1000, then we'll want to learn the weights of the shape 1000 by 3 million, which is 3 billion parameters only in the first layer itself, and that's so computationally expensive. So one of the solutions is to build using convolutional layers instead of the fully connected layers, because here is like a fully connected network, like each and every perceptron has been connected to each and every other perceptron of this previous layer. So it's a kind of a fully connected. Okay, so generally multi-layer perceptron, as we saw yesterday, is a kind of a fully connected network for every layer, because each and every perceptron in a layer is connected to the each and every other perceptron in its previous layer. Same for this, same for this. Okay, so that's the reason why we have seen so many huge mammoth amount of parameters is really difficult to train, and it's very computationally expensive. Okay, that's the reason why we need to narrow down our solution. We need to make it simpler, and that's the reason why people went from this MLP to the CNN. And let me tell you, CNN is also an MLP. It's also a multi-layer perceptron, but its dimensionality is different. It's a 2D. Okay. Fine. So we'll see a problem of age detection. We'll start with a very lucrative example which people are using nowadays. I mean, from the very beginning itself, not only nowadays. So this is like an age detection problem of age detection, and why it is a very important problem, because there's a study which says that based on at the beginning itself, what we do when we see an object, we try to make an estimate of the object from its ages, from its age information, the outer morphology. From there we get a lot of information about that particular object. Okay, then we gradually move into the body of the object. Okay, we try to recognize it. But in the darkness, for example, in a dark road, in a dark forest, while you are walking, if you see a particular object and the light is falling from the background of the object, you will get an idea of the outer line, outer border of the object, even if you can't see the object. Okay, so from the outer border, you will get to know what can be that object. For example, you have seen a tiger or an elephant. From the outer border, you may not need to see, you need not see, need to look at the eyes, the trunk and the legs of the elephant, the internal structure. No, not required. The outer borderline is sufficient to tell you what that object is. Okay, so that's the reason why age detection in computer vision is a very important problem. I mean, to identify a particular object identification. So here we will see like in age detection, people have used a lot of well-defined algorithms, well-defined filters, Sobel age detection, Prewitt age detection. Okay, a lot of predetermined age detection filters. So the filters, obviously those filters have been derivated, and the response have been computed, and those are predetermined, okay, fixed filter values or kernel values. But here we will see we can also train a neural net to learn those age detection filters. Okay, so just starting with, like, the convolution operation is one of the fundamental blocks of a CNN. So in a CNN, it has been seen that almost 80% of the operations are convolution. In a convolutional neural network, 80% of the operations are convolution operation. So it's a very primary and most important operation in a CNN. It's from where the name derives, convolutional neural network, CNN. So one of the examples about convolution is the image age detection operation. So every layers of CNN might detect edges, then the middle layers will detect parts of the object, and the latter layers will put those objects together to form an output, as you can see from here. Okay, so yesterday we discussed the same example I have cited here also. So at the very beginning, the edges will be defined. I mean, edges will be extracted. See, these are the straight lines, small straight lines. These are nothing but the edges, outline the edges of this object. And gradually what it will do, the middle layers will detect the parts of the object. So here, the wheels, the glasses. So the edges combine together, few edges here, combine together to form the parts, which makes a little bit more sense. And then finally the parts combine together to form an entire object. Okay, so that means this age detection is extremely important, as you can see, because the entire object consists of the edges, not only outer, inner also all the edges. Okay, so in an image also we can detect the vertical as well as the horizontal edges, or full edge detector. So if you see this particular image, from here, if we detect the vertical edges, I'll show you the operation how to detect the vertical edge from the response function of the filter, or what are the values of the kernel that is used for vertical edge detection. So that we'll see in the next slide. So how it looks like, just have a look how it looks like. This is the vertical edges detected from this, and the horizontal edges detected from the same picture. Okay, so once we combine this vertical and the horizontal, we get a full edge detection. Okay. So here if you see the vertical edges, see there the vertical features are well prominent here. Okay, and here if you see the horizontal edges are prominent here. Okay, so what are the filters that we can use for vertical edge detection and horizontal edge detection? That we will see the next slide. Vertical edge detector. Okay, so okay, I just like to take few questions. Any doubt until here before moving on to? Yeah, good. Okay, so here in this vertical edge detector, this is the vertical filter, 3x3 vertical filter, and this is a 6x6 image, very small image taken into consideration just to ease the understanding. Generally, it's around 1000 by 1000 big images. Here for understanding, we have taken 6x6 image and the 3x3 filter. Okay, so this particular filter will be convolved and it will traverse the entire image. So how it will be convolved and how it is done, let me tell you here. Say for example, if this is a 3x3 filter, it consists of 9 elements. Okay, 9 elements, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. And once you convolve onto here, how it works, just one-to-one multiplication of all the elements mapped here and followed by addition. That means this 1 will be multiplied by 255, this 0 will be multiplied by 255, this minus 1 will be multiplied by 255, again this 1 will be multiplied by this 255, this 0 will be with this 255, this minus 1 will be this, again this 1 will be this, 0 will be this, and minus 1 will be this. Just one-to-one mapping. Just think like this particular page or block you have kept onto here. So one-to-one multiplication followed by addition. That means 255 into 1 plus 255 into 0 plus 255 into minus 1 plus 255 into 1 plus 255 into 0. In this way, at the end, this 255 into minus 1 you do. Then what happened? The final resultant, that is, say for example, this is H1, H2, H3 until Hn, and this is I1, I2, I3 until I9. So you do I1 into H1 plus I2 into H2 plus I3 into H3. In this way, I9 into H9. Then you, whatever the resultant you get after this sum of products, okay, sum of products, that resultant you substitute here. I mean, in this particular position, which is shown here as X. Then what happens after substituting in the processed image or the filtered image, you can say, this block you move one step right. So it is stride 1. Okay, so this block will be now kept here. Initially the block was here. Just you can see my marker, the torch. Initially the block was here. Once you do the convolution operation and replace that in this particular position, which is denoted by X, then you move the block one step, one column. Then you move the block one column. Okay, just one column. Then again after that you get Y. You replace that here in this position. Again you move from here to here, one column. Now the position of the block will be this. In this way you continue until here. Then you move down until you reach the end of this row. Then you move down by one row. Then you place the filter block here. You place the filter block here. Again it continues like this way, and it goes one row down, and it at the end it reaches here. Okay, at this position. That is, it traverses the entire image in this zigzag way. raster scanning, and then it gives a processed image. Okay, 4 by 4. It's not 6 by 6 because it will start from here, because this X actually what it is replacing is in this position, then again in this position. So this row gets out, this column gets out. So a little bit shrink in the resolution we get. We will also see through padding we can maintain the similar resolution in the next slide. And so for this convolution, we use the Python format convolution forward. For TensorFlow, we get tt dot. These are the commands, okay, the codes which we get. TensorFlow tf.nn.conv2d. For Keras, it is conv2d. Okay, these are the commands we use for the convolution operation. Okay, so now let us see how we do the convolution and guess the age detector. Okay, so these examples of vertical edge detector. Suppose you know that in a grayscale image, the pixels, the intensity of the pixel ranges from 0 to 255. Okay, that means 256 different shades of gray, and 0 means black, and 255 is white. Okay, so here, suppose this is the image. It's a very small portion of an image. Okay, because generally images are 1,000 or in 1,000 by 1,000, 2,000 by 1,000, in this range. So it's a say 6 by 6, just to make you understand. And here in the slide, we have taken a very 6 by 6 image, and each pixel on the in the image is represented by a decimal number, right, ranging from 0 to 250. So these are the individual pixel values, you can think. Now this particular 2D matrix representing the image, and the image looks like this. For this matrix, the image looks like this. Why? Because see, this is white, means all above 0 in the range of 2020, and 0 means it is gray. I mean, it's a, you can think it's like a black, not full black, but yeah. Okay, so this is represented the image at the back end. I mean, if you see an image like this, its corresponding pixel values are this. So one half is black, one half is white. So this is represented by this. Similarly, if I convolve this with this is a filter. Okay, this is a vertical edge detection filter. These are the fixed coefficients. Okay, these are the 1, this is 0, this is -1. That means if you see how it looks like, this is 1, I mean all, this is 1 white, 0 is the gray, less than, and this is -1 means full black. Okay, this is the way you represent. And you will see once you convolve, so it is your task, home task, that you do the convolution operation, and you should get this matrix. Okay, so just try it out. As I told, just place this block onto here and multiply each and every element. So that is 20 into 1 plus 20 into 0 plus 20 into -1 plus 20 into 1. In this way, until 20 into -1 at the end you reach, you do the convolution, then you will get an output that is 0. Then you will get another output after moving this block right hand side once. Then you will get 60. In this way, you continue. See, first the block should be placed here. Then the block will move here. Second time. Third time the block will move here. Fourth time the block will move here. So you will get 4 outputs. Okay. And finally, when the block will reach at the end, you will get this. So this is the processed image. And what is the output? You will see like this: middle white, both sides black, because middle are both 60 and both are zeros. So this is the edge detected. That means since this is a very small portion, once you see a very big image, you will understand that this is the edge, vertical edge. Here there are objects, here there are objects. There is one line, vertical edge, that is detected. And through this filter response, you can do the convolution and get a vertical edge detected. Similarly, considering that these 20s are here and 0 is this region, so just the reverse way, see, this white is black, this 20 is 0. Similarly, if you do this edge detection, and then you will get an output like this, where middle is black, both sides are white. This is also an edge detection. Yeah, so questions? Yeah. Hello?
Yes, sir. Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, so the general question, like that if I do a filtering of 3 by 3 on a 6 by 6 image, the output will be 4 by 4. So definitely you can question me, it should be 6 by 6, but the operation is giving it 4 by 4. So that means from 6 by 6, if it is shrinking to 4 by 4, definitely there is a loss of information near the edges. Definitely there is a loss of information at the edges. To prevent that, we do padding. Okay, so what we do here, we add one particular row and a column here. Okay, so that once we do this, so assuming the image is 6 by 6, I just artificially add a padding here, so that once I convolve again, we start from here. So basically I'll show you. Suppose I'm adding a padding here. I'm adding a padding here. One row and one column on the entire boundary. In this way. Dot, 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 yeah. So what happens if I put this filter here? If I put this filter here, what will happen? I'll get in the middle position, the output. Okay. Just try to think, if I put the filter here, obviously some average will be happening because this padding with zeros, this will be all zero values. But still, the output, final output, I'll get in this position, right? For this particular window. Okay, that means this is the image boundary only. Initially, we started with here, right? When there was no padding, we started with this boundary. So we replaced this at this position. So there were 4. However, if the replacement happens here, then it goes on until we reach the end here. Then we replace this particular value. Okay, so we ultimately get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means adding a padding. So there are two commands in the Python. One is valid and one is same. If we do padding equal to same, that means we need to artificially add a layer of padding. How many number of layers, that I'll tell you later on. So with this adding of the addition of the padding, you can maintain the resolution. So here it will be 6 by 6 if you add a padding with 1. Otherwise, if you don't add padding, that is it is padding equal to valid. There are 2 things, valid and same. If you put padding equal to valid, then there is no padding. If you keep padding equal to same, then there will be a padding. So it will be 6 by 6, same as that of the input image. Processed image will also be 6 by 6, not 4 by 4 if you add a padding. This is a concept of padding. So you can just go through this text. So the thing is, how much we will do the padding, it depends. So suppose here is a good example. So suppose I am doing like if n equal to 6, n is the image size, okay, 6 by 6. I have kept it uniform deliberately. Image is the 6 by 6 and f is the filter size 3 by 3. That's why it is 3. And padding equal to 1. Okay, so what will be the output? The formula is n plus 2p minus f plus 1. Okay, what will be the output resolution? Output resolution is n plus 2p minus f plus 1. Okay, so n is here 6 plus 2p, padding is 1. So 6 plus 2 minus filter size is 3 by 3, so minus 3 plus 1. So what it is it? 8 minus 3, 5 plus 1, 6. So the output is 6. Okay, and how much padding will you use to keep the output same? It is given by f minus 2 by 1. Okay, so f is in the filter 3 by 3, 3 minus 1 by 2, that is 2 by 2, that is 1. So padding equal to 1. Okay, For example, filter is 5, size 5 by 5. So padding will be used as 5 minus 1 by 2, that is 4 by 2, that is 2. Padding will be used as 2. That means here you need to add padding 2. Here you need to add one more layer of padding if you are using 5 by 5 filter. So how many layers of padding we will use depends on the filter resolution. Okay, so here I will tell, that means for valid there is no padding. Okay, two cases I have already told, valid and same. So for valid there is no padding. If you keep padding equal to valid in the code, padding equal to valid, that means there is no padding, and the output will be like n minus f plus 1 into n minus f plus 1. Okay, so I'll just tell you here. In case of no padding, what happens? We used 6 by 6, right? 6 by 6 image, and filter was 3 by 3. So n minus f plus 1 means what was happening? N is 6 is the image resolution, minus filter size is 3 plus 1. Okay, into this by this 6 minus 3 plus 1. So it was like 3 plus 1, 4 by 4. So the output was 4 by 4. Okay, just recall, the output was 4 by 4. Here, the output was 4 by 4. Now, if you use padding, with the formula n plus 2p minus f plus 1. I just add here. Here it was n minus f plus 1. I'm just adding a term plus 2p in here. Instead of n minus f plus 1, I'm adding n plus 2p minus f plus 1. So n is 6, padding is 1. So 2 into 1, that is 2, minus f is 3 plus 1. So this gives 8 minus 3, 5 plus 1, that is 6. That is 6. Okay, now the thing is, how much value of padding we'll use, again I told, depends on the filter. Okay, so if the filter is 3, so f is 3 minus 1 by 2. Okay, that is 1. 2 by 2, that is 1. If the filter is 5, that is 5 minus 1 by 2, that is 4 by 2, that is 2. Padding is 2. Okay, so in this way, here it is written. See. So in this way, the concept of padding comes into being. Yeah, any questions, please?
Sir, free of question answer settings.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm continuing. Fine. So here comes to the stride. The thing is, this is an image. Till now we saw, as I've explained, that here we kept the particular filter, and then after that, in the next step, once we computed this A, we moved here. We moved here in this range, and then again we moved here in this range, one by one. I mean, one column at a time we were moving. However, it is also possible to move 2 columns at a time. Initially, the stride was 1 when we used to move 1 column at a time, and then again 1 row downwards at a time. After we reach here, we moved 1 row at a time down here. Okay, first 1 column. When we reach the end, dead end, we came to 1 row at a time below. So you can use, that time it was stride equal to 1, but you can also use stride equal to 2. Stride equal to 2 means, first after doing convolution here, you can move 2 columns right. So now your position will be here. After here, again 2 columns, your position will be here. So 2 columns at a time. Then again, after reaching here, you need to come 2 rows below, not 1 row, 2 rows. Then you can start here. then start here. Okay, so that is like stride equal to 2. You can set the values of stride. So now you may ask that if I use stride equal to 2, the output will also be reduced because I'm jumping more here. Definitely the output will be very less, and I mean some information will be lost. But that to reduce down the computation, people also use stride equal to 2 sometimes. So the thing is, it depends. It depends which stride value 1 or 2 you're going to use. That depends. Okay, maybe you need to handle a little bit less resolution. I mean, you need some more representations of a particular image. So you reduce down, I mean, you need to reduce the dimensionality. So quickly, so you can reduce down the dimensionality using stride equal to 2. We'll also see pooling. Okay, those are individual layers. After explaining these individual operations, I will start the CNN program. So here, like if you use stride equal to 2, initially when stride equal to 1, this S was 1. So actually the formula is here this n plus 2p minus f by s plus 1, and this is a floor function we take, because if we get a fractional value, we take a floor function. The floor function. So here we saw n plus 2p minus f plus 1 by s. Okay, this will be by s. Since s was 1, we did not write. So okay, but okay, one second. So since s was initially 1, so we did not write a by s, but actually the formula is n plus 2p minus f plus 1 by s. N is the image size, p is the padding, f is the filter size, and s is the stride. So here if you see n, here it is 7 by 7. So this image is actually 7 by 7. Okay, this is actually 7 by 7. This filter is 3 by 3. So if you see here 7, n is 7 plus 2p padding, we are not doing any padding, so padding is 0, minus f filter size is 3, f is 3 by s stride is actually 2, because we are using stride equal to 2, directly jump 2 times in this way, plus 1. So 7 minus 3 is 4 by 2 is 2 plus 1, that is 3. So the output processed image is 3. Okay, fine. So summary of convolution: n cross n image and f cross f filter size with padding p and stride s. The output size is this. Output filtered image size, or the feature map size. Okay, I can see some raised hand. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, hello.
Sir, in this case, we are using stride equal to 2.
Yes.
So finally, we are getting 3 by 3 image.
Yes.
So more pixel information is going to be lost, sir.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned, right? Like, it means nothing is free. See, you need to, because if you're using stride equal to 2, your number of operation is being less. Because if you're using stride equal to 1, then the number of times you need to traverse is more. Now, if you jump 2 times, definitely the number of computation will be less. I agree. Okay. But that will be done when I received at the cost of a little bit of shrink in the image resolution, and that is an approximation. It is information lost. But again, like, there is a trade-off. Suppose your device, you don't have much computational power. Okay, but you can tolerate little bit of accuracy degradation. So there you can use. It depends on your policy.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so I'll move on to this very important thing, cross correlation versus convolution. Okay, so the thing is, we should know this. Basically, convolution, whatever we are using, is actually cross correlation. Okay, not this is a terminology we should know, because whatever we are using, we should know what we are using and what is convolution and what is cross correlation. Actually, what we are using is cross correlation, not convolution. But people tells it as convolution. It's a customary to use it as convolution. That means if this is a filter, we are directly applying the filter on the image directly. There is no change. Directly we are putting it here, then again placing it here, again placing it here. In this way we are continuing. Okay, so and we are getting it. Now the thing is, what happens in case of convolution? What we do is, if this is the filter, we just flip it. This is a mirror, this is the axis, and we flip it. Okay, that means you can see here in this axis, along this axis we flip the image, flip the kernel, and then we apply the same operation what we discussed. This is basically convolution. Means how we flipped it, just try to understand. On this axis we flip it, I mean we just rotate it on this axis. So this axis will remain same, see, -131. However, this 214 will come here, 214, and this 0, -1, 2 will come here. 0 will come here, -1 will come here, 2 will come here, see. Okay, and here 214 will come here, 2 will come here, 1 will come here, 4 will come here, see. So basically we flip the kernel and then we apply on the image. This is actually called convolution. However, what we do if we directly apply the filter here, till now what we were doing, this is actually called correlation. We do actually at the back end, we do what is correlation, but we generally call it as a convolution. This is a customer. So just to know it as an information, because if someone asks you what is the difference between cross correlation and convolution, you should be able to tell what is what actually. Okay, so like in maths textbooks, the convolution operation is flipping the filter before using it, but actually in deep learning we don't actually flip it, we directly apply it. That means what we do is actually cross correlation, but we call it as a convolution. So the convolution operation is flipping the filter before using it. What we were doing is called cross correlation without flipping operation, but the state of the art deep learning is using this as a convolution operation. Okay, just like it does not matter much to the deep learning community, to the accuracy, hampers the accuracy, nothing like that. Similar to the way this associativity, okay, that happens, like it does not matter much to the like signal processing phenomenon. So A star B star C can also be written as A star B star C. Okay, so both are same. Both are same. Okay, so Jagan, I just want to take a 2 minutes break. Is it okay? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hello, Jagan. Hello.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Just a 2 minutes break. I'm coming back in 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. This is the convolution operation over volume. I would like to show you to understand the basic concepts and to clear your basic concepts. So convolution operations over volume. So suppose the image is 6 by 6 by 3. Now this by 3 I have additionally added. So this means RGB, red, green, blue. Okay. So this is a color image, RGB, 3 channels, and so its representation is 6 by 6 by 3. And the filter is 3 by 3 by 3. One thing you should always keep in mind, that when you are using a filter, I mean, here all the things are filters. Okay, everything is filtered in CNN. Whatever kernels we are using are all filters. However, no predefined weights. Those weights are all initialized during the training. Okay, every time 2 iteration it is getting trained, and the weight changes at every iteration. And then we reach the finalized training module. So there is no fixed filter. Kernel coefficients like edge detection. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so when we are using a filter on an image, the filter depth should be same as that of the image depth. Just put this thing into a gray matter of your brain. Okay. So never forget this thing. When you are using a filter on an image, the filter depth should be same as that of the image depth. See here the filter is 3 by 3 by 3. Why by 3? Because the image is of size by 3. And we get an output 4 by 4. Just you apply that formula n plus 2p minus f plus 1 by s. Okay, based on the value of the padding in stride, you get the output. Assuming that padding is padding, there is no padding, and filter the input size is 6, n minus f, n plus 2p, padding is 0, so n plus 2p minus f is 3 plus 1 by s, stride is 1, so you will get output 4. Okay, 4 by 4. Fine. So the thing is, here as an output you are getting a single layer, because in this previously we saw 2D convolution. Now this is basically a 3D convolution. What is happening? 3 by 3. Initially we saw this 3 by 3 was sitting onto here, and it was producing a single output. Again here, a single output here. Now what is happening? This 3D kernel is sitting exactly on this chunk. Okay, just think as a 3D volume. Just think it as a 3D volume. As a 3D volume. So this 3-dimensional volume of 3 by 3 by 3, that is 27 elements, you are convolving here, just placing it here in this chunk. You are placing it here. I cannot show 3D here. That means you are doing basically 27 multiplications and 26 addition. 1:1. This one with this one. This one with this one. This one with this one. In this way, total 3 by 3, 27 multiplications and 26 additions to get a single output here. Am I clear? So you are doing basically a chunk of this convolution here, 1:1, 1:1, 1:1. Previously we were doing 9 multiplications, 8 additions, but here we are doing 27 multiplications, 26 additions to get a single output here. Similarly, this chunk will be moved one place after, if you use stride equal to 1, and then you will get similarly here output. So in this way we do the convolution operations over volumetric data. Okay. So now, for example, you are applying this particular filter 3 by 3 by 3. However, each channel is this. This is one channel. This is one channel, and this is one channel. So here, if you see, only on the red channel or the blue, whatever you tell, only on a single channel we apply the convolution. I mean the kernels are. We are applying the kernels. Okay. On a single convolution, on a single channel, we are applying the kernel value, otherwise all are zeros. So this is basically, that means you are applying on the red. If middle would have been the value, you would be applying on the green, but operation is happening total 27. Okay, but this will only be reflected, only this. Anyway, so if you are applying edge detector on the entire volume, your kernel should be like this. Okay, now you will understand in the next stage how we basically do. So suppose in a convolution operation, we are using 2 filters. So this is the image, and we are using 2 3 by 3 by 3 filters, 2, not 1. This is one 3D filter, this is another 3D filter. So what will happen? From this filter we'll get an output 4 by 4, and from this filter again we'll get an output 4 by 4. And then we'll combine these two and we will get 4 by 4 by 2 as an output. Okay. Again, I'm repeating. Suppose I'm taking a 3 by 6 by 3 image and I'm applying 2 filters. This each of size 3 by 3 by 3. Okay. So I'll definitely, if I use 2 filters, I'll get 2 outputs corresponding to each filter. Output will be 4 by 4. Here also 4 by 4. So finally, we'll get 2 outputs and we'll combine them and we'll get the processed image. This of size 4 by 4 by 2. Okay, so this is the formula. Understand it, understand the physical significance, then you need not need to remember the formula. Okay, they usually understand this. Okay, until here, any questions, please ask me. Because shortly I'll start the programming. Yeah, somebody raised hand, Jay Kumar. Yeah, okay. Yeah, please. Please go ahead. Yeah, and question. What is the question?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, hello, hello.
Sir, the 6 by 6 into 3 means color image, sir. This one.
Yes, yes, RGB, 3 channels, RGB, that's why 3.
Okay, sir. Then we are getting 4 by 4 as output.
Yes,
Whether it is the color image or black and white, sir.
this one,
4 by
this
4. 6 by
4
4.
by 4. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So this is actually grayscale output, grayscale output.
Grayscale output only. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, thank you,
So
sir.
you got my point, right? Why it is 4 by 4 and not any depth? Because of the operations here.
Okay.
Each instant of time you are doing 27 multiplications and 26 addition, and you are getting a single output, not any volume.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, moving forward. Now, just try to we'll recall. We'll remap it to the older things that we have learned. Just the previous example. Take the previous example. Here we saw it's a 3 by. So it's a 3 by 3, 6 by 6 by 3, and it is 3 by 3, 3 by 3 output. We are getting two responses, 4 by 4 and 4 by 4. So basically this 4 by 4, what it is? What is 4 by 4? What is the response that we are getting after convolving with the input image? As I told, this filter you think of as W, this input image as X. So W into X. Just try to recall Wx plus B. Okay, Z is equal to Wx plus B. Then sigma of Z, A is equal to sigma of Z. Okay, there is activation, which is equal to the Y cap or the predicted output. So similar and analogously, here if you see, this 4 by 4 is nothing but W1A. A0 means the input layer A0, or W1X you can say. Okay, and then we add the bias term here B1, and then finally, because this is Z, this filter is basically Z, the response, the feature map which we are getting Z1, which is Z equal to Wx plus B. This is W into X plus B, and then we do the ReLU activation. Yesterday we saw ReLU activation sigma of this, and then we finally get the predicted activation. ReLU, that is activation equal to sigma of Z. Okay, this is Z, this is ReLU of Z, that is this activation G of Z basically, which is actually the activation. So this is the activation. Okay. So any questions? Okay. Okay, fine. One more question. Okay, somebody raised hand. Okay.
No, sir. Continue.
Okay. Okay. So I hope this is clear that this is W into A plus B, and we are doing a ReLU operation onto this activation, and finally getting the activation output here. Okay, fine. Now the thing is, let me ask you a very quick question, and the answer is obviously here. Just try to first try to find out the answer before looking into the solution. So compute the number of parameters in a layer. This is very important. How you compute the number of parameters in a layer. So suppose you have 20 filters that are 3 by 3 by 3. That is, each filter is of size 3 by 3 by 3, and you have 20 such filters. Okay, in one layer of a neural net. Just like previously we saw 3 by 3 by 3, there are two such filters we have used. Now we have 20 such filters. Each filter is of size 3 by 3 by 3. So how many parameters are there in that layer? So the answer is, for a single filter, the total number of parameters are 3 by 3 by 3 plus 1. Okay, 1 is for the bias. So it is 28. So total number of parameters is 28 into total number of filters, that is 20, that is 560. Okay, so this is very important to know how many parameters. We'll see how to compute for each and every layer. But remember this thing, like how many parameters in a single layer, because a single layer, almost the convolution what is happening, we can consider that as a single layer. However, you can also consider convolution, ReLU pooling, convolution, ReLU pooling you can consider, but most of the parameters which get computed, we compute the parameters from the convolution layer itself. So the thing is, it depends on the filter resolution and the number of filters we are using and the bias. So for each filter, it is 3 by 3 by 3 plus 1, that is 28, and 20 such filters means 20 cross 20 into 28, that is 560. Okay, so hyperparameters here, like just go through it, you'll be able to understand, nothing much. So in the mathematical derivation, we have already did these things yesterday. Okay, now a very important thing. We are coming to a CNN example before starting the hands-on session. Just give you a quick thing of a CNN, how it works. Please pay attention to this, because if you understand this architecture, you will be able to design your own CNN. Okay, and nothing can be better than that. Yeah, I think I have some questions. Yeah, please. You can know your own, design your own CNN if you understand this architecture. Then I think, yeah, someone raised hand. Yes.
Sir, no questions from anyone. Continue, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is an image. Suppose its size is 39 by 39 by 3, the size of the image. Okay, so height, see the height feature NH equal to NW is equal to 39, and NC, the number of channel, is 3. Okay, now as I told, what should be the filter size? Suppose I'm using a filter of size 3 and 10 such filters, means each filter should be of size 3 by 3 by 3. Okay, because the input depth of the image is 3, so we have to use a filter of resolution. Since if it is given as 5, then I would have used 5 by 5 by 3. Okay, no matter it is 3 or 5 or 7 or 9 or 11, whatever, the depth should be same as of the input image depth. That always you have to remember. Okay, with stride 1 and padding 0. Here, these are parameters you need to define while coding. So the filter is of size 3. 3 here mentions 3 by 3 by 3. Okay, and how many such filters? 10 such filters. Similarly, if you come here, so what will be the output? Why it is 37 by 37 by 10? Because I have used 10 filters. So for each filter, there is an output. And how I determine it is 37? From this formula. N plus 2p. 1 second. N plus 2p minus f by s plus 1. This determines the output resolution as we saw in the previous slide. So n is 39 plus 2p, padding is 0. So that is plus 0, minus f, filter is of size 3. So this is 3 by s, stride is 1. That is 1 column and 1 row at a time we are traversing, plus 1. So this is equal to 39 minus 36 by 1, 36 plus 1, 37. So output is of size 37 by 37. And why 10? Because we are using 10 such filters. For each filter, there is an output. Similarly, similar to this one. Since we use 2 such filters, so output was 4 cross 4 cross 2. Resolution 4 cross 4 and cross 2. Why? Because we use 2 such filters of each of size 3 cross 3 cross 3. So that's the reason why this is 37 cross 10. Next, if I use a filter of size 5 with stride equal to 2, that means filter of size 5 means 5 cross 5 cross 10. Okay, because here the depth is 10. This feature map which is generated, or the filtered images, or the feature map which was received from here after applying the filter, this intermediate feature map, okay, is of size 37 by 37 by 10, depth is 10. So here I have been instructed to use 20 filters. For example, you are designing 20 filters, each of size 5. 5 means actually 5 by 5 by 10. Each filter is of size 5 by 5 by 10 because the input depth is 10. And how many such filters? 20 such filters. Okay. Now, what will determine the output? 20 filters. Therefore, the output depth will be 20. And why it is 17 by 17? Just compute from here. 37. Just try to compute from here. How I am getting 37 by 37 to 17? Okay. A filter is of size f, f equal to 5. So here will be n plus 2p minus f by s. Just compute. N is 37. Okay. 37. Padding is 0. It means 37 plus 2p, 2 into 0, that is 0, plus, sorry, this is minus, this will be minus, sorry, minus f. F is what? 5. Okay. 5 by stride is 2. That means we are jumping 2 times from here to here to get it. Stride is 2 plus 1. So you compute what you will get. 37 minus 5 is 32. 32 by 2, that is 16, plus 1, 17. So we get here 17 by 17 by 20. Why 20? Because we use 20 filters. For each filter, there is one output. Finally, what we get now, from 17 cross 17 cross 20, we again make it more depth-wise, because in neural CNN, what happens as we go deep, okay, the input volume, this volume increases and the resolution decreases. See, this is 39 plus 39 to 37 to 17 to 7. The resolution decreases and the volume increases. This is how we make it a good robust feature extractor. So similarly, you compute that from 17 cross 17 cross 20, how we can make it 7 cross 7 cross 40. Okay, why 40? Because you are designing with 40, number of filters is 40. So output will be definitely be 40. Now, suppose you are using filter of size 5. So number of filters 40. Each filter should be of size 5 cross 5 cross 20 because the input depth is 20 and stride 2. Put it in this formula, you will get the output 7 cross 7 cross 40. Okay. Finally, 7 cross 7 cross 40, what we do is we serialize it. Okay, we entirely unroll it and we serialize it. That means 7 cross 7 cross 40 is actually 1960. So we unroll it and entirely the serialized vector, the perceptrons, we what we do is we put it into the final classifier. If it is for binary classification, we use softmax. Logistic regression, if it is for multi-class, we use the softmax. Okay, so this is all like the same engine as we described earlier. Descent, back propagation, it updates. Okay, and it computes the probability for each and every class. So finally, this particular thing feature, we unroll it and before passing it to the fully connected layer, and so the unroll and we move it to the logistic regression classifier, and finally we get it. So this is an example of a CNN. Okay, so this logistic regression on the softmax, it computes the probability of each particular class, whether it is 0 or 1, or for if I am using 10 classes, how much probability for each and every class it belongs to. Okay, in this way it computes. Suppose the input image is a cat and I have output 5 classes. So it will take a cat, dog, cow, pig, and hen. So it will tell cat, for cat class, it will say it is 95%. In the other classes also, it will show something, but very less. So from that, we can conclude that it's a cat, okay, or an elephant in this way. Okay. Finally, this convolution pooling and the fully connected. So we'll see the pooling layers. We'll start the pooling. Yeah, any questions, please?
Sir, we have some questions in chat box, sir.
Okay, okay, fine.
I will paste here, sir.
Yeah, good. So why 40 filters? Yes, yes. No, there is actually not any hard and fast rule. Okay, for selecting any the number of filters. You just see, as I told yesterday, you need to see your data set size. You need to see, the architecture that you are planning. Okay, based on your past experience or some benchmark algorithms which people have used with the data. So there is no hard and fast rule like that. You can use 20 filters, you can use 10 filters, and you can check. Yeah, so any more questions? I'll start these pooling layers.
Sir, one more person wanted to use.
Yeah, sure.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Sir, previous slide you have taken size of the image is n cross n, right?
Yes. Okay, let me move to the previous slide. Yeah.
If I take m cross n, sir, then what is your formula, sir?
Yeah, which one? M cross n?
Yeah, 39 cross 39 you have taken. I have taken 39 cross 42. Then
Right,
what
very
is
good.
your formula, sir?
Right. So we'll do some pre-processing here. Because whatever image you'll be giving, it may be of any size. Okay, but it depends on the neural net, which is, that is capable of handling a fixed size. Okay, so whatever you input, if it is capable of handling 100 cross 100, it will resize it and make it 100 cross 100. No matter if you put 100 cross 500 or 500 cross 1000, doesn't matter. Okay, it will resize it. It will resize and put to this particular size, which itself it is capable of handling.
Okay, sir. Because
okay, we'll
sizes
see.
may be different. Some cases 1024
yes,
into
that's why.
248.
Absolutely. But in that case, we have to design the neural net in such a way that your network should be able to handle that fixed particular size. Suppose in your application you have you've got an input size of 500 cross 500 image. Okay, 500 cross 500. So in that case, you will never design this kind of neural nets which can take input of size 39 cross 39, because it will lead to a huge amount of information loss.
Yes, sir.
Definitely, you will design a net which can take at least say 300 or 400 by 400 in that range.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Very good question. Yes.
Sir, one more person, sir.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So these are the pooling layers. These are used after the convolution, as I told. Suppose this is the convolution output, convoluted output, the feature map, you can say. From here, you reduce down the dimensionality and try to reflect the representatives, the maximum features present in this region. Instead of handling the entire thing, you are selecting some representative. Okay, maybe it will lead to some approximation, definitely, but at the cost of reduce down the computational complexity. So max pooling means you are using this particular block. So suppose a 4x4 block, you are breaking into 2x2. Here the filter size you can see is 2. Here also 2. Here also 2. Here also 2. Okay, and stride is 2 because after this filter you are jumping here. 2 places you are jumping. You can also use stride equal to 1, not an issue. But generally this is the customary to use filter size of 2 and stride equal to 2. So max pooling means in this block, what is the maximum value? 12 is 12. In this block, what is the maximum value? 15. Here 28 and here 9. So this is called max pooling. Okay. Similarly, if you use average pooling, like, okay. Now one more thing is in max pooling, what happens if you have n number of layers? Here it happens on single layers. Okay. For max pooling on the second layer, it will be the similar operation will be continued. So for example, in this layer, what is the max pooling? Okay. So suppose I am using with stride equal to 1. Here I am using stride equal to 1. Filter size 3x3. That is this one. This is 3 by 3, and stride equal to 1. That is one column at a time. So what will happen in this particular range? This is the maximum value is 8, so it is 8. Stride 1 means I'll not jump to here, I'll jump here. Okay, so here what is the maximum value? 7. One second, just a second. Yeah, so the thing is, this is max pooling. What happens, as I told here, with stride equal to 1, finally when it reaches here, the maximum value is 9 here in this block, so it is 9. Similarly, you do it for the entire process, this layer, and then you move on to the second layer to find this. So that means 5 cross 5 cross NC. NC is the number of channels. Okay, here it becomes 3 cross 3 cross NC. That means number of channels remains same, I mean to say. So this is the max pooling. Now this is called average pooling. Okay. Jagan, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Your voice is audible, sir.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So this is called average pooling. Okay. What is average pooling? Similar to the max pooling, but instead of taking the sorting and taking the maximum value, you're doing the average. So this is like in this block, if you're taking the average, 12 plus 4, 16, 16 plus 6 is 22, plus 3, 25, 25 by 4 is 6.25. Similarly, this also 8 plus 1, 9, 9 plus 20 is 29 by 4, that is 7.25. So in this way, you find the average pooling. Okay. So that means you're selecting, you're summarizing the information of this particular region, either by max pooling or doing average pooling, but mostly people use max pooling. This is for your information. Okay, now let's see a very interesting example, LeNet 5, which was invented by Jan LeCun and applied on the MNIST dataset. And this the original paper is present here in this particular link. If you want to have a close look at the paper, it's an excellent paper. Just go through it to have a more in-depth understanding. So here comes the architecture. In this way, you can define your own architecture. LeNet 5 layers. See, so like this is an alphabet. Okay, it's an alphabet, and I'm taking, I'm doing the feature extraction. These are the number of layers which we use. So suppose I'm using the alphabet is of size 32 by 32. Okay, the input resolution is 32 by 32, not a color image, so it's 32 by 32 by 1, basically grayscale image. Okay, so here you are using filters. Suppose you are using filter of size 5. So here what will be the filter size? 5 cross 5. Okay, and 5 cross 5 plus 1, because input depth is number of channel is 1. And you get output as, and how many filters? Suppose you are using 6 such filters. Suppose you are using 6 such filters, so you'll get an output 28 by 28 by 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So why 28 by 28? You now know that is 32. Okay, 32 plus 2p, padding is 0, so 32 plus 0. Let me write it down here. 32. It is n plus 2p, p is 0, so 32 plus 0 minus filter size is 5 by stride is 1 plus 1. Okay, so what it is 32 minus 5 is 27 by 1 plus 1, so 28. So it's 28. Okay, now after this you are doing max pooling. Okay, so definitely if you are doing max pooling, 28 by 28 will become 14 cross 14. Here if you see 4 by 4 has become 2 by 2. Okay, so here 28 by 28 will become 14 by 14, and 6 depth will remain as 6, because here you already saw pooling is applied individually on all layers. So the number of channel remains constant. Okay. So 14 by 14 by 6. Again, after here, suppose you are applying again a convolution, okay, with filter of size 5 cross 5. Here the depth will be 5 cross 5 cross 6 because the input depth is 6. Okay. Here the filters are 5 cross 5 cross 6. And how many such filters? 16 such filters, because output you are getting 16. Okay. So you will get an output like this. Again, after this, input here is 10 cross 10 cross 16. Here the depth, each of size 10 cross 10, 16. And from here you will again do max pooling. So 10 cross 10 will become 5 cross 5. Depth will remain constant, 16. Okay. So after that, what you will do, you will use the fully connected layer. That means now your input is 16 cross 5 cross 5. Okay. Just try to recall here. You need to flatten it. This you are flattening it. 7 cross 7 cross 40. You are flattening it to 1960 because 7 cross 7 cross 40 is equal to 1960. You are flattening it now before passing it to the fully connected layer and the soft noise classifier or the logistic regression. Because generally before passing it to the classifier, we unroll it and feed it to the fully connected layer, where the pool of features get accumulated. So here there are two fully connected layers, each of size 120 and 84. So we have to unroll it. That means 16 cross 5 cross 5 is actually 400. We unrolled it and put it into the fully connected layer. Fully connected layer means to each and everything has got a connection to each and every node. Okay. Each and everything has got a connection to each and every node. These are called fully connected layers. In this way. So this is 120, 84, and finally 10 is the output of the classification soft noise classifier. So here the number of samples, a number of features will be 120 cross 400 because 400 is the input here. Here 400 is the input, total 400. So 120 cross 400. As I told, how to compute the dimension. Here it will be 84 cross 120, 84 cross 120. And finally 10 cross 84. So just let me summarize. These are the input convolution. This is max pooling. I mean convolution means convolution plus ReLU. Okay. Followed by the max pooling. Again, this is a convolution on this max pooled output. Again, this is max pooling. And finally, the fully connected layer and the logistic regression of the soft noise classifier. This is a soft noise classifier because we have to classify 10 classes. Okay, 0 to 9. Okay, MNIST. So this is the architecture of a LANet. Okay, this you can design on your own. I have supplied the code. The code I have already given. Okay, you can go through. I'll tell you. Okay, so now what is the activation size from here? What you can compute? Okay, Ajay, from any questions until here, please.
No one, sir, can continue, sir.
Okay, okay, fine. Fine. So what is the activation shape? So for example, you are using 32 by 32 by 3 instead of a single layer. Obviously, if you are using a single layer, it's 32 by 32. It's 32 by 32. If you are using 32 by 32 by 3, what will be the activation map and the number of parameters, how you compute? So assuming 32 by 32 by 3, activation size is just a multiplication of this 32 by 32 by 3, the activation size. Okay. And what is the number of parameters here? Here number of parameters is none because is the input. Now after applying the filter, you will get a reduction like 28 by 28 plus 8. Why 8? Because you are using 8 such filters. Okay. Each of size 5 cross 5 cross 3. Okay. Yeah, it is 6. Okay, you can also use 6 here, just the way you compute. So suppose you are using here 6. Okay, so you can use it like 6 filters. So in that case, it will be 5 cross 5 cross 3 plus 1. This is a bias. 5 plus 5 is the filter size into 6 such filters. If you are using 8, it will be 8 such filters. So this computes the number of parameters. Now in pooling layer, there is no parameter. It's just a shrink of the size. There is no parameter. Again, from here you are getting another filter you are using. That's why it's shrinking the size 14 to 10. You are using 5 plus 5 filters. 5 plus 5 plus 8. Okay, 16 such. See here. Where it has, you see 5 plus 5. Okay, 16 such filters. So you are getting an output of 16. So 5 plus 8, input depth will be the same. Each filter is of size 5 plus 8 plus 1 the bias, and how many? 16 such filters, 3216. In this way you compute the number of parameters, activation size and the number of parameters. So once you move to the fully connected layer, what is the size? See, 120, and you are giving 400. You unrolled it and 400 is the input. So 400 cross 120 plus 120. So Wx plus B. Okay, 120 here is the fully connected number of perceptron, 120. Okay, here 120, and the number of bias is also 120. However, it is getting multiplied with the previous layer, that is 400. So 120 cross 400 plus 120. 120 cross 400 plus 120, 48120. Similarly, for 84 cross 1, we are using 84 cross 120 plus 84 equal to 10164. And finally, this is 10. This is 10 output. So 10 cross 84 plus 10. 10 cross 84 plus 10, 850. In this way, you compute the number of parameters of a neural network, CNN. Okay. So what are the layers we saw? Convolution, activation, there is a ReLU, pooling. Okay, again convolution, activation, pooling. Then sometimes you use binary normalization also, and then you use a fully connected layer and the softmax classifier. These are the layers generally we find in a neural net, CNN. Okay, so why convolution? Just you can go through this information. I'll share the slide. Okay. So Jagan, I'll request you, all these codes I've already transferred. We'll now transfer the screen to Jagan's machine. We'll run a few codes there. You'll see how you can train a fast CNN. Yeah, hi Jagan. Hello.
Sir, I will share once again.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions before that you can place, and we'll see the programs, execution of the programs. Yeah, some hands I can see. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, hello. Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah,
can you explain the
Screen, sir.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just explain yet how we apply the shallow net on CIFAR10 datasets. Maybe there will be a few questions. I'll just explain from the starting. Okay, Jagan?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So the thing is, here like from sklearn, okay. Yeah, so we have got a folder called Redpine. From here we'll import all the libraries, and another folder within it is the NN neural network, then convolution, and within that shallow net.python, this particular file, this is the architecture of the shallow net has been defined here, defined as the class. So the definition, build, width, height, depth, classes, everything is a parameterized constructor which we are going to pass the values within this constructor, and so based on the height, width and depth which we pass, it will be computed and sent. So here if you see the Keras in the header files, the Keras layers, core, import, flatten, dense, everything is present. At the top, Jagan, can you just scroll to the top? Yeah. So if you see keras.models import sequential. So in this sequential block, this is a framework where you import the body of the neural net, and you, I mean, it's like a framework where you insert the layers. Okay. So it's a sequential import conv2d. Okay. So it's a convolution operation in keras defined by conv2d, this particular library. Activation, or you're importing, whether you use ReLU, sigmoid, tanh, whatever, leaky ReLU. And then finally flatten. Flatten means I have shown in the example how you serialize. Like for example, you have got the input size 5x5x16 due to 16 filters, and you, before entering into the fully connected layer, there is the dense. You need to flatten it. That is 16 plus 16 plus 5, 16 plus 5 plus 5. That is 400. Okay, you serialize it before passing it to the fully connected layer, which is defined by here as dense, import dense. So we are importing the libraries here from the keras. Okay, fine. So if you see this class shallow net, here it is defined as all the layers are defined. So here, like the channel fast, input shape, depth, width, and the height is defined. Now we need to add. So everything is commented out here. See, define the fast and the only convolutional layer. So model.add. Okay, model, what is model? See here it is written model is equal to sequential. Okay, now in this sequential framework you're going to add the neural net. Okay, for a particular thing you can use here 64 also, 128, not an issue. Here it has been given as, since it's a shallow neural net, very small, is to explain, that's why we have taken 32, and number of filters is 3 by 3. Okay, and the padding is same. Okay, and we are using an activation of ReLU, specifically defined as model.add activation ReLU. See, this activation function we have already defined, I mean imported in the header files. So we are passing the parameter here, ReLU, into the activation function. Finally, we are for the softmax classification, we need to add the we need to flatten, serialize it, the pixels, the features, and then we need to add the dense layers, dense number of classes. Dense means the fully connected, and finally the activation softmax. So just tally this architecture with the slides that I've explained and the mathematical concepts. So each and everything will be crystal clear if you just tally this with the slides, the pictures, and those blocks, each and every engine. I hope till now it's clear, the mathematical concepts behind it, and then finally you return the model. Okay, fine. So this is the main function from which you will call the CIFAR10. From the main function. Okay, so this is the main function where you have got the sklearn.library, preprocessing, label, binarizer, classification report, shallow net. SGD is the stochastic gradient descent. We need to import the dataset CIFAR10 plot, and import NumPy is a mathematical numerical computation. Okay, so first block, if you see, we are splitting the total training dataset into training samples into training and testing. Okay, and we are from here we are loading the CIFAR.load data. We need to load it. Finally, we use the label binarizer, which implements the one-hot encoding. As I told, for the one-hot encoding means if you are using 10 classes here, as an example, CIFAR10, for each class, okay, you're using 10 classes, for each class, you have got a label. Okay, so for each class there are lots of data sets, training samples, and for each class there is a label associated with it, which is nothing but an integer value. However, for machine learning algorithms, it's very easy to to go through if it converts into a binary equivalent, the binary vector. So for example, I am telling 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 classes. I'm assigning each and individual label as a integer value, but that particular integer has to be represented in a one-hot encoded binary vector. Okay, so suppose class 5, so its integer value is 5. What I'll do in the fifth position, fifth index, I'll put 1, rest all zeros. Suppose I'm applying label, applying label 2. Okay, I'm assuming label 2. What is label 2? It's represented by an integer 2. There in the second position, I'll put 1, rest all 0. In this way, each and every label, all the images associated with that particular label is assigned an index equivalent to a binary vector. Okay, this is what the concept of one-hot encoding. That one-hot encoding concept is being implemented into this particular function, label binarizer. Okay, fine. Once this is done, then we have got the labels. Okay, what are the 10 classes in CIFAR 10? Airplane, automobile, bird, cat, deer, dog, frog, house, sheep, truck. See in the code 25, 26, and 27 line number. So then you need to compile it. Compile means you need to define the optimizer. So Jagan, if you can just scroll a little bit down. Yeah, so these are label names, and then you need to compile it. Okay, compiling means you need to initialize the hyperparameters here, the optimizer, the shallownet.build 32, height, weight, number of classes 10. So categorical cross entropy is a loss function, computes the loss score, and the optimizer, okay, is opt, and the matrices is accuracy. Okay, OPT, optimizer equal to OPT, which is defined in line number 31, is stochastic gradient descent SGD with learning rate of 0.01 is alpha. Okay, and then in the line after this initialization of these parameters in the compilation stage, we will go for training the neural net. Okay, which is shown in line number 36 to 39. So the function is fit, model.fit means we will start the training. Epochs, see, epochs is given 40 epochs. Yesterday I explained the concept of epochs. Okay, that is the each one epoch means complete passing the entire training data set. That completes one epoch. Okay, so then verbose 1 and batch size equal to 32. Okay, if the total size is 100, batch size is 32 means 100 by 32. That is the number of iterations we need to perform. And then finally we need to predict it. After the training, we need to predict it. Okay. Yeah, I think someone raised hand and told if there is any class tomorrow. So Jagan, I think you already told, right? So tomorrow I'll be taking a class, similar time, second half.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a session tomorrow from 2 to 4. If we can extend up to 4:30.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so here we are doing the predictions, and finally we are plotting the training loss and the accuracy. So Jagan, if you can run this particular program, execute this, you'll be, or
Sir,
it is all.
this code I have not converted into the Jupyter.
Okay.
Can you show in the tomorrow first?
Yeah, sure. So in the meantime, you can convert it, you can make it ready then. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, CIFAR 10 and animals, have you done animals one more?
Surely we have done in the year. This is one Kiras.
Okay, you done this for this. Okay, this CIFAR 10 and all. Okay, no problem. This is also okay, but this is not CNN, this is MLP.
Okay.
Okay, this is an MLP, but we can show this tomorrow. These two programs we can show tomorrow. Right? So in the meantime, you can convert to the
Sure, sir. Both shadow animals and seafood both.
Right, and one more program we will show tomorrow. One more LeNet, that LeNet chapter.
LeNet 14.
Yeah. This is the LeNet I have explained theoretically. Now the programming exercise is here.
This is the program. Yeah, I'll convert completely.
Sure.
If I started execution, it will take time, sir. Because epochs will take time for us.
Right. Not an issue. We can show these 3 programs tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be covering these 3 programs. I will be discussing about the LSTM, the recurrent neural network models, and the reinforcement learning, little bit of reinforcement learning. So then we'll cover up the session tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is the picture. It's very important. It's a picture like once you execute, you will be able to see things like this, like the loss in the accuracy. The loss will be decreasing, accuracy will be increasing. So these are with the increase in the epochs. What you can monitor this curve basically. So this will help you in selecting empirically the number of parameters and the other hyperparameters basically. So difference between MLP and CNN is right. Very good question. There is no difference between an MLP and a CNN. You can call CNN as an MLP also. Okay. Generally, MLP means each and every layer, one-dimensional perceptrons we use. However, CNN can also be called as an MLP. Okay, it's not like that. So CNN can also be called as an MLP, multi-layer perceptron. Okay, so 2D MLP you can call it like. 2D arrangement of the perceptrons in each and every layer. Okay. Okay, fine. Thanks. Thanks. Then any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Dr. Sudha Garu, you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah.
This is generalized question, sir. Actually, I completed my PSI circuit modeling, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Sir.
Okay. 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 If you have any questions tomorrow, we can answer it then.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jagan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Before leaving participation, please give your valuable feedback. It is there in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you all.